Hello and welcome to the Hole in My Heart podcast. This is episode 256. It's time to talk about porn.
It is time. This is not the first time that we've talked about porn on the Hole in My Heart podcast. It's probably the 50th, maybe 100th. Hello and welcome to the Hole in My Heart podcast, where we talk not just about porn, but how the gospel is good news for everybody every day, even people who are wrestling with porn addiction and people who are trying to walk with people who are wrestling with it. We're coming at you from the lovely WCSG radio studio here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'm Lori Krieg, and alongside me is my husband and favorite licensed therapist, Matt Krieg. Hey, Matt.
Hi.
How's today?
It's pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Your face is looking really good.
Oh, thank you.
I feel like the new lotion wash combo.
Soap and it's doing wonders for my complexion.
We have talked about skincare on this podcast maybe only 5 times, not as much as we talk about porn, but we do care about skincare. I'm going to see if we can get this place to sponsor us. Anyway, happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Did you get a new skincare routine? This is posting on February 13. Just curious what you guys are doing to care for yourself or your loved ones. Today, we're talking about pornography, which maybe isn't a big, huge segue between talking about Valentine's Day and pornography, but really this is a conversation we can't talk about too much because we don't know how to talk about it in real life. We have an amazing guest who's written a book called It's Time to Talk to Your Kids About Porn. Matt, who is this amazing author?
Yes, Greta Eskridge is a mom of 4, an author, and the host of the Greta Eskridge podcast, where she encourages families to pursue connection, faith, and intentional living in a digital age. She's the author of It's Time to Talk to Your Kids About Porn, a practical, hope-filled guide for parents navigating conversations about sexuality and screens.
With that, let's officially welcome Greta Eskridge to the podcast. Welcome, Greta.
Hi, guys.
We're so happy to have you here to talk about your book called It's Time to Talk to Your Kids About Porn. That is a word I just said without asterisks on a microphone. That felt awkward to say, but it is good to talk about for many reasons that I'm sure we're going to hear from you. But before we dive into the content of your book, we ask every guest this question. If part of the gospel is I am more sinful and flawed in myself than I ever dared believe, yet at the very same time, I am more loved and accepted in Jesus Christ than I ever dared hope. When was that gospel first good news for you, and how is it still?
Well, I asked Jesus into my heart when I was 3 years old in the kitchen with my mom. And so Jesus has been a central part of my life, my entire life. But I would say I came to know him. Man, you guys are making me cry for the first 5 seconds of the podcast. I came to know him in a deeper and more intimate way than I had ever known him. The day, and then the times, months, years after, when my husband came to me and confessed to having a porn addiction that led to an affair. And all of a sudden I had to know Jesus. I got to know Jesus in a way that I never had before. And it transformed my faith, made it deeper, more beautiful through pain, and then through redemption.
So today, how do you need that good news?
I need the good news still, because that moment launched me and Aaron into a world that we never wanted to be a part of, but are still we're here, and now we're inviting people to come into that space with us, a space that is full of pain and anger and sorrow, but then, like I said, knowing there's redemption on the other side. And so we need the gospel every day, because we need to be reminded, whether it's through our own stuff we're working through or helping people work through theirs, that God's in it with us.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely resonate with that. Similar story for me over here, coming clean to Lori 11 years ago-ish, right? Somewhere.
Yeah,
porn addiction.
Porn addiction,
yeah. And so, I mean, I definitely get your husband's side of the confession and how scary that can be, and how much life can come outside, after that time when you start letting Jesus into that space. But we're not talking about confessing marriage struggles and everything. We're talking about your book, which is how to talk to your kids about porn. And I guess what was the motivation for you to write this book now, to step into this hard conversation and to really tackle this tough issue?
Well, I would say it came out of that place of pain. And for Aaron and I, recognizing that we had no tools when we were growing up, and then into marriage and adulthood for how to talk about pornography. I knew almost nothing about the world of pornography. He knew very little other than how it had impacted his life. We certainly didn't know how to talk to each other. And here we are dealing with the fallout of it in our own life. So, and then we had 4 kids, little kids who are growing up in a world saturated with pornography. And so my immediate response was, how are we going to do better for our kids? We didn't blame our parents. They had no tools. They had no resources. We had no tools and resources. So I was like, what are we going to do here?
Yeah.
And so it came first just out of our own need for help for our family. And then what I found was, as I began to talk with my friends, nobody had resources. Right. Nobody knew how to talk to their kids about porn. And so I just began to talk with people. And, Aaron and I were learning, we were healing, and we took that and began to share with parents. And ultimately, there was more information than I could ever put in a 45-minute talk or podcast, and it all needed to be in a book. And so we wrote the book. It came out last year, and this is the new path.
That's so great. Yeah. I want to zoom in for a hot second about your pivot point, your decision to lean in, because so many people, we talk a lot about the human sexuality conversation, and I'm sure you hear this every day, is people either fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, which people please. And so we encounter this trauma of porn, or we encounter just being in a porn saturated world, and we don't move toward. I hear you moving toward with surgical precision. What was that heart work? How did you do that?
Well, I would never have picked this topic for myself. I mean, as I said, I grew up knowing almost nothing about pornography for, I would say, the vast majority of my life. I couldn't imagine even saying that word out loud in front of my husband or friends, let alone strangers.
Right.
But the response was, I saw God work in my life. I saw him work in my husband's life. I saw him work in our marriage. I saw the pain that was there. And I thought, could we help other families? Could we help kids grow up and not have to walk through the same pain we have? And then if they have experienced this, can we show them what God can do with that pain? And so even though it has been scary, incredibly difficult to step towards learning about pornography and entering into a world that I wanted nothing to do with it, knowing the good that God could still do in a dark place. In fact, one of my favorite quotes is, "There's no pit so deep that God's love is not deeper still." That's by Corrie ten Boom. Yes. Actually, her sister said it, Betsy ten Boom, but Corrie recorded it. And that has been my motivation. The pit of pornography feels so deep, so dark, so void of God's love. And that is not the truth. God is there. And I want to just shout that from the mountaintops.
So good.
Yeah. So a lot of parents, myself included, can tend to have some hesitance around talking about this topic, just because of this fear of bursting the innocence that their child has. And that's, according to research, that's the opposite of what we should be doing. And I guess, why is it so important for us to be the ones to step into this topic with our kids, maybe even before we think they're ready for it?
I think it's really important for us to know that someone's going to teach our kids about sex and someone's going to teach our kids about porn. And if it isn't us, who else will it be? Will it be Google? Will it be their friends? Will it be some kid on the bus? Will it be an older, cousin or an older friend? Will it be somebody on the PlayStation that they're playing video games with, a stranger who has access to them and we have no idea? So if we're not the ones saying something, if we're not the ones telling them the truth, and giving them tools for how to navigate all of these very confusing and potentially very dangerous topics, who's going to do it? So that's the bottom line. Like it has to be us. That's our job as parents. And then I think also just the facts that kids are being exposed to pornography at younger and younger ages, that should also be the motivating factor of like, oh, I need to talk to my kids about this before they see it. Hopefully that's the goal, because then we can be proactive rather than reactive. So often parents are like, well, I don't want to talk to my kids about it yet. They're too young. And so I'm going to wait till they're in middle school and talk about it then, or maybe even like the first year of high school. But by then it's potentially too late. We have to be reactive. We have to do all this like, aftercare, when how incredible would it be if we are the ones who give them the proactive information. Hey, if you see this thing, it's bad for you. It's dangerous. I'm going to tell you what to do. And then you're going to come talk to me. That's a very different conversation than like, oh man, I'm so sorry you saw that. So I think we have to look at stats. Kids are being exposed to pornography between the ages of 8 and 12. Where does that put us as parents in this conversation? It puts us in, we got to talk to our kids about porn.
Okay, slow it down. You just said there are things online that are dangerous. Come talk to me if you see it. How old are our kids when you're saying that? And what are you saying? Because we need to know.
If the average age of first exposure to pornography is around the age of 11 or 12, but it gets younger every year. And so a lot of experts are saying it's even as young as 8.
Right.
I believe that kids should be given the tools for how to respond to that exposure before the exposure happens. So ideally, you're talking to your kid at age 6, 7, 8 years old. You are going to give them the least amount of detail to keep them the most safe. So you're not having a lengthy conversation describing pornography. You're going to give them a very simple explanation, something to the effect of, there's a thing called pornography. It's pictures or movies of people who have no clothes on or very few clothes. They're naked pictures on the computer or on a phone. Someone could show them to you. And if that happens, here's what I want you to do. I want you to either turn the phone off or close the computer, tell the person, I don't want to look at that. Walk away from that device, walk away from that screen, walk away from that person, and then come find a safe person like me or daddy, grandma, grandpa, somebody else that we know is safe. Tell them, I think I just saw pornography, or I think I just saw naked pictures of people, and I want you to know. If you give them that sort of concrete plan, a definition, so they know what to expect, it's not so shocking, not so overwhelming because you've prepared them, and then concrete steps, things to do.
Yeah.
And then they know they can come talk to you and that they're not in trouble, that you're so glad they told you so that you can help them stay safe. That's a transformative experience rather than terrifying, overwhelming, shame-filled, horrifying, all the other things that they could be feeling. They know what to expect and they know, hey, I can tell mom and it's going to be okay.
I have found for me, again, I've been in this world for 10 years, Matt in his story, but I have had to like meditate and think on, Lori, what is your face going to be if and when they encounter this? Like I like pre-recorded it. So I have it ready because honestly, I am horrified by pornography. I am horrified if my poor children encounter this at such and such an age. But the facts are they have bumped into things already at young ages accidentally. And so I've had to have my like pre-plan face and pre-plan words of what I'm going to say. And then such a conversation like that, like truly everybody like roll that back, memorize it. That was really great. Can you talk to us? What do we say after? Let's say our kid accidentally runs into it or they've been watching it 3 or 4 times because it's interesting. What's that conversation?
I love that you said you're prepping your face. Like you're thinking, what will my response be? And I actually tell parents, like pray in advance for the day your kid comes and tells you they accidentally saw it or they purposely saw it. Pray in advance that the Lord would give you peace
Yes.
and grace
Yes.
and no judgment or anger on your face, but just love. And it will be hard. And there's a great chance that you will mess up. But even if you mess up, God's grace is there for you to come afterwards and say, I'm so sorry. I was shocked. This was hard for me. That's okay. But let's say you're able to not have that happen. You don't have to come back and apologize. Your response, I think if you can have compassion and grace as your over the umbrella over that conversation, that it appears on your face, that you reach for your kid to touch them and to say, I am so sorry you saw that. You might be feeling scared or confused or grossed out or curious. And I want you to know all of those feelings are so normal. I love you. I want to keep you safe. I'm so glad you told me. And I want to help you not go back to it because it's not good for you. If that can be your response, you have just welcomed them in a moment where they probably want to hide.
Yeah.
Where they feel, scared, hurt, disgusted, curious. They don't know what to do with those feelings, but you've welcomed them in. You've told them it's going to be okay. That's transformative. And it is hard to do. I hear from so many parents, they're like, I've been waiting for this. I've been praying. I've been anticipating. And then it comes and I'm so sad or I'm so mad or I'm so upset. It's hard to do, but it is possible with the grace of God. And like I said, even if you mess up, God is there for that. And you can go back to your kid and say, hey, I'm sorry for how I responded. I want to fix this.
Because I get this then. Is they're like, okay, Grace schmace. A little bit, right? My kid, oh no, just found out they've been watching for years, a full year, 2 years. They're going back to it. It's this habitual, they've been lying, sneaking. Like this, that takes surgical precision, right? Because the first exposure is trauma. Those initial ones are curious, but then what? Like, how do you engage that, Greta?
Well, I think then it becomes, we need to help you. And I think if the language is not, we need to punish you or I'm disgusted by you, because that's just heaping to shame that they probably already feel. They already feel trapped. They've probably already wanted to stop.
Yeah.
And for you to add to that is not going to help. Instead, if your language can be, we want to help you. This is not good for you in the present, and it's not good for your future. We want to get you the help that you need to step out of this dangerous and hurtful addiction or habit that you have gotten. And then begin to address things like, why do you think you use this? Are you being drawn to use pornography in times where you're stressed or you had a bad day at school and you feel bad about yourself? Are you anxious? Are you lonely? Are you bored? So like getting to the heart of the matter instead of just addressing like the action, but getting to the heart of what is pushing them towards porn as something to numb, because that's really why most people use pornography. And yes, that includes teenagers. Yes, it can include a middle schooler. When we address that and get them help in that area, that is so much more transformative and helpful than we're taking away every device you have, we're smashing them with a hammer, you're in trouble, and we're going to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah.
That's probably not going to change their heart because you haven't addressed the heart issue.
Yeah, I mean, that would teach them to hide their activity better. I think I want to go back because I think it's really important that people hear this. If or when your child comes across pornography and you're talking to them and you're having kind of this emotional, hey, how did this make you feel conversation, like to identify the shame, to identify the feelings of ick and guilt and the desire to isolate and all that stuff. But I think it's really important to talk about the curiosity piece. Because once the shame is gone, and hopefully in this conversation we are removing shame, the curiosity can still remain. And then if they feel like that's not something that was talked about, that's not something they're supposed to feel, that then leads them back into a space of isolation. And so I know that like for me, because this is part of my story, I don't have as much trouble connecting with that because I know fully what that felt like. But if you haven't had that kind of experience and your initial reaction is just the disgust and the like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing ever. We have to make sure that we're also just aware that there is a whole mix of feelings going through the kid at this point, and whether they're 8, whether they're 11, whether they're 17, there's a ton of different emotions that are associated with the activity of viewing porn. Some of them are very good emotions that are just being taken a very incorrect way, curiosity being one of them. And so, I just think it's really important to allow for some of those good emotions to come into the conversation as well.
It's great.
Yeah, I think that as parents, it can be really scary for us to consider our kids as sexual beings, right? But it is actually biological. God put it in our bodies to have a biological, physical response to sexual things. And like you said, Matt, that it's being with porn, it's being hijacked, and something that should be a good response in the right place at the right time that God designed for our good. Like sex is not bad. He designed it. It's good. But what Satan is doing through pornography is he's hijacking it. Yeah. He's turning it into something evil. And so for that is an important conversation to have with our kids as well, is that Satan is taking this thing that is good that God made, and he's absolutely twisting it into something bad. And so the curiosity that you feel about sex, the questions you have about sex are not bad. It's just, what do you do with it? And porn is doing something terrible with it. And so for us to be able to express that to our kids, and maybe even as parents understand that ourselves first, is really important.
You asked in this hypothetical scenario, you asked some really important questions, and they were heart related. Like, what are you feeling when you go and look at it? So this is a kid who's maybe been watching it for a while, or a spouse, or yourself. Like, for people who have not been studying your book or J-Stringer or any of the research, they're like, why are you asking that? Why are you asking heart questions? Can you break that down a little bit? Could just tie it together. Why are you asking heart questions when it comes to porn?
Well, that came from my own trauma and lack of knowledge, because knowing nothing about pornography use and why people would turn to pornography, I would never have thought to ask those questions. Instead, I would respond with judgment, right? Like, this person has a problem and they're weird, or they're gross even, right. Like I just had no space or compassion. But what I learned first through my husband's experience, and then by talking to so many people and reading and learning more, was that yes, all things we turn to numb, it could be pornography, it could be shopping, it could be scrolling, endlessly, food, exercise, whatever. We all try to deal with uncomfortable or negative emotions in some way. And for some people, they turn to pornography. So when we actually look at pornography use, habitual, repeated use, and we ask the question, why are you turning to it? When are you turning to it? Can you identify in that moment that you are feeling stressed, anxious, bad about yourself, bored, lonely? Then we can help actually say, oh, this is why I'm doing this, because for a moment it makes me feel better. It numbs that negative emotion, the pain. But then I'm left feeling exactly the same as I felt before. So what can I do instead? That's why we have to ask the hard questions. And I think that gives hope. It gives more hope than just saying, try harder, do better, pray more, call a friend. Like, it actually is saying there's something going on in your heart. You're longing for something. There is a hole in your heart. Right?
Yes.
The name of your podcast.
Yep.
There's a hole in your heart that you're trying to fill with something that is never going to fill it.
No.
We need to help you find a way out into to the one who can fill it. And there are ways to do that. That's why we ask the question, because it is not just about pornography. It's about, why are we using it? We need to give our kids that information. We need to know it ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much about pornography that's not about sex. It's about the heart. It's about, where do we run to the things? What things do we run to try and fill that need? Usually in a self-sufficient way, because we don't like being reliant on God. And God is the answer. He's the only one that can fill our needs. So even if we identify, oh, I'm feeling lonely, I'm feeling bored, I'm feeling stressed, like, we don't just run to some other self-sufficient means to get it. Yes, we can supplement with those things to support, but God is always the foundation that we have to stand on.
Yes. Amen.
So, okay. So you mentioned in your story, with the trauma that you experienced, and there was this lack of compassion, that you didn't know how to have compassion on this, and you had to go through the process of learning compassion, especially regarding this issue. And at this point, most modern culture is not at a place of a lack of compassion. It's a lack of concern. They're just saying, hey, this is normal. This is maybe something to be celebrated or supported. And the Christian viewpoint is somewhere between the two, right? It's not that this is not concerning. It's a heavy concern, but it's also one that has compassion. And I guess, how do you see the Christian viewpoint as something that is offering an alternative to the culture, as well as to the kind of railing against mindset?
Right. The culture is definitely saying porn is normal, healthy, even good, right? It's no big deal. Everybody does it. So I think taking a firm stance on the truth that pornography is none of those things. It's not good. It's not healthy. It may be normal that people use it, but that doesn't make it normal. We shouldn't minimize it. And so I think that the church's response and our response as Christians is to not hide our heads in the sand. And like you said earlier, Lori, to run away from it, but to actually step into the conversation and say, hey, this is bad for every human being, boy, girl, man, woman. It's bad for all of us. So let's do something about it. And that starts by saying, it is hurtful, it's harmful, it's not anything we should normalize. And as families, as communities, as churches, if that's our stance, then we should want to take the next step, which is to do something about it. And maybe doing something about it is simply listening and sharing podcast episodes like this, reading books, suggesting your small group reads a book about this topic, my book, your book, and having conversations in church. That's, I think, the step that we all can do that. It doesn't have to be, we're going to, march in Washington, D.C. and change the laws, even though, yes, that's so important. Absolutely. That can be something that we can do, should care about. But it can start so much smaller than that by simply saying, hey, I listened to this incredible podcast today, and sharing it with your friend group and just opening the conversation, taking a stance that this isn't good and what can we do about it? Well, let's start by talking about it.
I'm sure there's moms and dads and people, disciple makers of the next generation, listening, and they're like, at what level does discipline factor in? At what point? Like, I hear a lot of compassion. I hear a lot of asking why, but like, there's boundaries too, right? And like, if you do something, you say you're not going to do like right? Like, isn't that sin? Shouldn't we address that at some level? This is delicate. So how do you navigate that? How do you recommend people navigate that?
Well, I mean, yes, we do have to address the sin issue. This is not God's plan for our sexuality, right? It is not God's plan that we are lusting after, other people, that we are sexualizing and objectifying them. We're not loving our neighbor.
Yeah.
When we do those things, when we use porn, we are not loving our neighbor as ourselves. And so I think that absolutely has to be part of the conversation. We do have to talk about what porn does. Porn, in our own heart and in our own mind, we're objectifying people. We're using them and abusing them for our own purpose and for our own pleasure. So pornography is bad for us, but then we also have to address, and it's harmful and it's sinful. But then pornography also hurts the people who are making it, right? And then that becomes a whole nother conversation. Probably not with your 7-year-old, but by the time your kids are in high school, you should have conversations with them about sexual exploitation, and that people in the porn industry are often there not by their own free will. And that when we use pornography, we are partaking in that. And we don't want to, because it is harmful, and it is, again, it's not loving our neighbor. It's not honoring God. So yes, absolutely, that is part of the conversation.
So do you discipline your kids if you catch them watching porn? Like, is that ever a conversation? Because I've talked to parents who are like automatic discipline. And then I talk to parents who are like, never, never, never. And I'm like, this is tricky. So I'm just curious how you navigate that.
Well, I think the discipline, again, my philosophy is I want to help you, right? But that does require changes have to be made. And you can consider that as a form of discipline for sure. Like, how are we going to change your access to screens so that you can use them in a safe and healthy way? Is that discipline to change passwords, to, change the way we use them, no using them in the bedroom, or you can't be on social media anymore because it's not safe for you? Right. Yes, that is a form of discipline. And I think really the bottom line is it's addressing the fact that you are not safe with what we were doing before. And so we have to make changes. And again, I always want to go back to the heart issue, which discipline should always be addressing the heart, right? We don't want to just simply deal with the actions. So if we're only disciplining to change their actions, but we're not addressing the heart, then we're missing the purpose of discipline, which is we want to help you change your heart. We want you to run to God and not run to these other things.
I love that gospel positive pivot, because you can discipline or set boundaries with like trying to shame your kid. Honestly, like make them feel bad and like hate themselves a little bit because you're pretty ashamed. Whatever. It's like it can get really meshed. But what I hear you saying is, I love you. I want health for you. God wants health for you. He wants you to flourish. These things that we're engaging, that are opening up doors to evil, are not helping you flourish. So here's a boundary. So I hear love. I hear the focus on flourishing, which is hitting their heart. Yeah,
that's our goal, right? We want them to, like I said, run to God instead of run to these other things. And I want sexual health for my kids.
Yeah.
And so I think all of us do in the present and in the future. And if we don't address their heart in this moment, then how is that going to impact their sexual future?
That's it.
Yeah. So you've been in this conversation for 10 years or so. And you said when you started, there were no resources. They were not out there. They were not available. So talk to the parent of a 15-year-old who is, maybe 7 years too late to this conversation, feeling like they've missed the boat, feeling discouraged, feeling overwhelmed because maybe some patterns and behaviors and things are so firmly entrenched that they just don't know what to do. Can you talk to that person?
Yes. And I would tell you, it is never too late to start. And I think that is the moment where you can have a really honest conversation with your 15-year-old and just say, hey, sweetheart, buddy, there is something that I should have talked to you about a long time ago, but I didn't know how, or I didn't even know I was supposed to, or whatever is your reason, and be really honest with them. And they're like, it's this thing called pornography. You've maybe even heard about it. You've probably heard about it. Maybe you've even seen it before, but I need you to know the truth from me about what it is, and then it's not good for you. And I want you to know what to do if you see it. And I want you to know you can come to me. And just because we haven't talked about it yet doesn't mean we can't talk about it now or in the future. To be that honest with your kid, to admit you should have talked about it before now, but for whatever reason you didn't. Tell them what to do, just like you told the little kid what to do if they see it. To know that there is a way out. I think so many teens right now, I have heard from them that they don't know there is a way out.
Yeah.
They don't know that there is an alternative, that they don't have to watch porn because so many of their peers are. To let them know there's a way out, to let them know they can talk to you. Man, that's so powerful. And they may say nothing. They may be embarrassed out of their minds. They probably will be when you talk to them. But I will say from experience with my own children, the more you talk about it, the more you make this a conversation in your home and you're not panicking when you have it, they're going to open up and they're going to know you're a safe place. That's powerful and it's possible.
So good, Greta. Really appreciate you. Guys, go check out her book. It's Time to Talk to Your Kids About Porn, A Parent's Guide to Helping Children and Teens Develop Sexual Integrity. Also going to link to it in the show notes as well as her site and her IG. It is great stuff. Thank you, Greta, for being with us today.
Thanks for having me on. It was amazing.
You're a joy. When we officially said goodbye to Greta, we're super thankful for what she has taught us today. I love her language. Matt, we'll just jump right into what stood out to you. I really liked her language around that's not healthy for you. Mm-hmm. That doesn't help you. I like that language of health. That's not like for your, how I talk about flourishing.
With the discipline piece.
Yeah, discipline and all of it. Yeah.
I think the thing that is sticking out to me is just as a parent, we often are reacting to the world and teaching our kids to react to the world when we really should be guiding our kids through the world. And so like so much of this conversation is about being proactive, kind of being on the front foot and not just backpedaling, trying to defend against everything the world's going to throw at your kid. Like you can't defend it all. You have to teach people how to navigate it. And so I think that's the thing that stood out to me.
Love it, Matt. Well, we'd love to hear what you think about it. If you want to take a minute, we'd appreciate it to rate and review or email us at podcast@lorikrieg.com. Let us know your thoughts. You can also find me on the old IG. That's where I'm the most active. You can DM me and we can start a conversation. Often I've been taking you guys' questions and throwing them up here on the podcast. So find me there and we'll see if we can start a conversation and invite other people into it anonymously. All right. Thanks so much for joining us today. Thank you again to Greta Eskridge for being interviewed and sharing your beautiful work with us. Thanks to WCSG for hosting, to Bethany Sanderson for doing the video, to Steve Odell for doing behind the scenes, to my intern these 2 weeks, Adele Guevara. Really appreciate you for helping me write these questions. For all of us here at the Whole of My Heart podcast, we'll see you next time.